Hello everyone, my name's John with the Ugly Bug Fly Shop. Today we're going to learn how to tie a fly that I designed, probably 20 years ago now. It's called JR's Flashback Emerger. It imitates a blue wing olive pattern. It's a neat little pattern. We designed it for a two-fly tournament here in Casper. Did very well. It fishes very well in the spring and again in the fall. It's typically tied, I like to fish it in an 18 or a 20. The reason I like a 20 is early in the morning when the blue wing window is open. It could be fished as a midge or it could be taken as a very small blue wing. As the day progresses and the water heats up and the hatch starts happening, that's when I would switch to the 18. So let's get started. We're going to take a 18 hook today, and the first thing we're going to do is put on one of these little small glass beads. It is an important part of the pattern as they are imitating a air bubble as an emerging mayfly. They create a small air bubble by their heads, and that's what helps them float to the surface. And I don't always tie it with a glass bead. If I'm fishing big water where I use a weight, then a glass bead is essential. If I'm fishing small water, like a mountain stream where I'd use it as a dropper, put a brass bead or a tungsten bead or whatever kind of bead you have. But they work exceptionally well year-round in the mountains with that heavier bead on. So we're going to just start a little bit of this gray thread. Now I'm using an 8/0 thread. It's very, very light, very small. I prefer 8/0 for these types of flies. We're going to take some silver wire. I like the medium-sized wire. It seems to react well when we do this. Anything real small is not seemingly very effective, so I like the little thicker wire. We're going to take this wire and we're going to start it right behind the bead, and we're going to take it and just tie it in right on top of the hook shank. And we're going to take this thread way back, farther than you normally would on a nymph hook. I'm going to take it back to the bend. Now that we have down here at the bend, I'm going to advance my thread back up to the glass bead. Now we're going to take 3 fibers of pheasant tail, just a normal pheasant tail, normal colored pheasant tail. 3 fibers is all you're going to use for the tail. With these 3 fibers, we're going to divide this hook into thirds. So we're going to take about 1/3 of the end of that pheasant tail and make it the tail. And we're going to tie it in with this wire. No thread, just wire. Now the important thing here is to make sure that your pheasant tail, the end fiber pointed towards the hook eye, stays on top of the hook, so that when we complete this fly, I gotta pull that tail a little bit. When we complete this fly, we'll have 2 distinct colors. We'll have the gray on the body, the belly, and we'll have the brown of the pheasant tail on top of the hook. Now, normally I would stop with the wire wraps, maybe 2/3 of the way up. In order to give it a little more weight and a little more balance, I prefer to take it all the way to the glass bead. Once we're there, we're just going to tie that wire off, maybe a couple of wraps, so really all you need. And then we're going to snip it off. Now the next thing you're going to want is some tinsel. I use a fairly thick tinsel. I think it's more effective in this pattern. I don't like real thin tinsel for this particular pattern. This is a pearl flat large piece of tinsel. I really prefer that. I think it outperforms anything else that I've tried. But again, you know, if there's something that you want to try or you prefer, please feel free to experiment with this fly. This is one that we have a little trouble here. This is one that I took several months designing. Used multiple different types of colors, different types of flash, different types of wire, that sort of thing. And what we have here is ultimately what I found to be the most effective. So we're going to take this flash and tie it in right behind the eye, right here. We're going to go back again about a third of the hook shank back to there. Now back to our pheasant tail. Now we want 4 pieces of pheasant tail fiber. These will ultimately become the gills or the legs, as you might hear them often referred to. We're going to take the point of the fibers, we're going to point them at the top of the hook. We're going to tie this in right up to the hook eye, and we're going to take it back to the point of our flash. Trim your excess. You certainly don't want that hanging on. Now we come to the dubbing. This dubbing is it's really for dry flies. It's kind of a gray that I would use if I were tying an Adams, something along those lines. Now the important part of this is you really do not want very much of it. This is a super fine dubbing. You really don't want very much of it. That is about as much as I would want for this fly to dub, making the thorax. Now, when we put this on, we don't use any wax or anything like that. We're just going to make our thread a little bit thicker by wrapping our fingers, your index finger and your thumb. You're just going to pinch and roll until you feel your fingers getting warm and hot. Once you've gotten that far, then you know that your dubbing is on there the way you want. Push it to the top, give it another twist or two, and then we're going to wrap. And we're going to wrap very lightly. Nothing really heavy here, very lightly. Now, once we have this far, we're going to take the legs, as some people call them, gills, legs, whatever you refer them, and we're going to split them. We're going to take 2 on one side of the hook, lay those off to the side. It'll be a little difficult. My fingers are too big for this sometimes. Let's get this down. Okay, so maybe 1 wrap. We're going to take the other 2 and lay them off to the opposite side, maybe 1 or 2 wraps just to hold everybody in place. Take your flash, make sure your legs are out of the way. I'm going to lay that right over the top of the fly, and we're going to tie that in. A couple of wraps. Make sure that your bead is not getting thread on it, because you want to make sure that that bead shows up. And then you're going to cut your excess. Now we're going to put in a quick little whip finish here. I like maybe 2 or 3 wraps per, usually do it twice, just so I'm goofy that way. Cut our thread. we're going to take these wings and we're going to cut them to the thorax, these legs, excuse me. We're going to cut them back to about the thorax there, so that what you have is just a little bit, this side's a little short, but you have a little bit of gill hanging out there. Now if you screw that up like that, like I just did, don't worry about it. It's not a significant problem, because nature has never created a perfect bug. Every one of your flies does not have to be perfect. Flies, bugs, people, we all have flaws. This fly right here will fish beautifully, and it will catch fish. And that is the JR's Flashback Emerger. Thank you for watching.